Hey, what's up everyone? Alex here, back with the 117th opening, the Hayates variation. So I'm naming this after Hayates, essentially Hayates First is his nickname online. And I think more recently he's kind of changed his nickname to 1 Karos, 1 KAR, 0S, that's the nickname I think. So he's definitely one of the top few kind of online-based younger Japanese players, the younger generation who plays a lot, prepares a lot, reviews a lot. So I think he's definitely one of those players who is something that somewhat like me, playing a lot online and basically creating his own opening. So I think let's run over his variation for parallel opening. Something that is very interesting is that he plays something different that compared to the usual. So of course E3 is the usual, and then over here F6 is the follow up. On how he plays it, and then over here F6 you would expect D3 as the best move, and then over here it would actually be E2, which is somewhat different than the other two that we covered in mouse, and also over here maybe the Jew variation. No, this one is probably more towards the other variation that we covered. So over here E2 is actually the one that we would want to cover. So E2 usually F3 actually isn't too difficult a move to kind of get opponent going in terms of just trying to get, because if you get F2 and white takes away the D5 move, black wouldn't have two consecutive moves. So yeah, forming a block, getting both this. So this is kind of like one of the exceptions where flipping two discs could be better than just flipping one, because you want to control the center without giving a good move to your opponent. So F3 followed by F2 is probably the usual book, and then followed by E6. So I think I've also seen Cheese Chan play this. So E6, D2, wrap around, and then you kind of wait for the head and tail by black. So I think G5 is pretty common here. And then followed by H6 as the final variation. So I would say here it's quite debatable in terms of how you can play this. Of course, centralization will tell you G4 and flipping one disc is good. But white goes in and gets the edge. It's probably a higher chance that you probably go along this line, G3 followed by H4, and then I don't think C1 is too far-fetched as well, and H2 could also be possible, but let's just talk about C1, right? So if C1 is played, then white could probably jump into D2. I think D2 is probably slightly favorable, and at the same time you can see that the playout is probably not as simple for white, but at the same time for black it could be also challenging. So I think I've also fallen prey to this opening right here. At this stage, it's probably hard to kind of want to give white the edge play control sometimes. Also because you don't have access to G6. And if you were to play the G6, white would have two options over here, C3 and also to F7. So I think so far when I've seen somebody play this variation, it seems to yield him quite a lot of success, especially in the blitz opening play basically. So yeah, white could actually play D7, capture E4, feed off D6, regroup to G6, and then kind of pressure black to just play on the outside, while white is kind of playing on the inside. So even though white is kind of trailing in terms of the advantage or the discount lead, I think white is probably in a position that is easier to play. So I think this variation is interesting in a sense that it puts you up in a position that is easier to play, and then it's a lot more challenging for your opponent to kind of follow up. So yeah, but I would say probably you should use this more for a blitz or a practice game instead of the actual tournament game. I think with the actual tournament game, it could be fairly easy for your opponent to kind of slowly figure out the right move. But yeah, at the same time, you can see that the variation, once black kind of misses it, the variation is fairly equal. So let's just play out this again. So let's say if you play the E7 and feed off D6 and take G6. So I think it's kind of similar to the earlier playout whereby you're just trying to nestle within the center and just break out over here. So I think this move is interesting because it cuts away E5 and controls this vertical. So I think for parallel, usually it's all about kind of controlling the main lines and just cutting out excess. So yeah, this does seem challenging. I mean, now that I've just kind of played it out, reviewed it again along the lines, it does seem a bit challenging for black to kind of play the wraparound role instead of for white, who is just capturing the center. So this variation is highly recommended for somebody who wants to give a huge surprise for your opponent. Why not try it? So thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you enjoy this variation. So see you. Goodbye.